Good morning to all my ball knowers out there. This is episode 7 of The Southern Spread with Kirk Kemp, and this is college football week 3 preview prediction, keys to the game. And what we're going to do here today is run through the full SEC slate, cupcake games, big games in the SEC, as well as best of the rest, big games around the rest of the leagues. And the last little bit of this episode will be game picks, and the big one, upset of the week. We are 1-0 in our upsets of the week as we had Baylor last week. So we'll see if that trend can continue this week for us and try to go 2-0 here for you guys. So starting off with the SEC slate, 11 a.m. Oklahoma at Temple. And what I'll do is probably just give you a few keys, I think, to each game or what I'm looking to see in each game. And then I'll give you the picks at the end of this episode. Really, it's just another chance for John Mateer to improve his stock on Saturday. Is all this one is for Oklahoma. Just getting more comfortable with the team, let him play some more ball with the Sooners is all that is. The biggest thing for me in this game is more Jaden Ott. I don't know, injury. I don't know what's going on in that situation. He was supposed to play more last week. Essentially, he did, from 1 carries to 4 carries. I don't know. Is he going to get 8 carries this week? I don't know. I would like to see a lot more Jaden Ott in this offense, especially before next week when they have a big game next week, because they'll need him. And that moves into my last point. I'm really looking forward to next week's game for Oklahoma. I think it'll be a good one. But this one's really just a cleanup game for anything they saw that they didn't do well the past couple weeks. 11:45 South Alabama at Auburn, kind of similar. All these games are very similar in terms of it's just going to be cleanup games before you get into SEC play. The 5 that I'm about to talk about. Jackson Arnold, another game in Hugh Freeze's offense, which is huge. I would really like to see them at least early in the ball game until they get up a little bit, ball in the air some more, because they didn't do it game 1. They didn't throw the ball a ton. Game 2 looked really good throwing the ball and utilizing those 2 good receivers that he has. So I'd like to see those guys get involved early and just get more accustomed to playing with each other. All 3 of those guys, Arnold throwing to Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton Jr. And the biggest question mark is, can he play consistently for 3-4 weeks in a row? This will be the 3rd week in a row. If he does it now, can he do it week 4? Week 4 is going to be the biggest test of the year so far for the Auburn Tigers, and that's when we will really see if Jackson Arnold has progressed and is a lot better in this offense or not. So those are just a few things for this week. Next is 3 p.m. Louisiana at Mizzou. It's just another game for Bo Pribula to play. I presume he will look great for a half. I don't think he'll play much more than a half. I figure he'll probably have 15 to 17 for 220. Maybe he probably won't run the ball a ton this game just because of the fact that in a lot of these games when you're playing teams like this, they tell your quarterbacks who do run a little bit to not run, just to not get injured, or the added injury bonus on that. But yeah, I just expect him to play a half. Same with Ahmad Hardy. I expect him to play a half and get about 8 carries in the half and call it a day. And Jamal Roberts as well. I feel like he'll play the second half of this game, being the backup. He'll play a little more, and that's how that one will go. UTEP at Texas at 3:15. I think they need to just let Arch play this weekend. At least for the half, just let him get out there and play free and easy. Get him free access throws, easy access throws. Just let him continue to play college football, because that's the only way he's going to get better is allowing him to be himself in these types of games and just get more comfortable playing college football. And I think if they struggle this week for the 3rd week in a row, Then I'm throwing a huge question mark on everything surrounding the quarterback play and that type of thing. But um, I don't know what's been going on the first 2 weeks for them. I mean, he has struggled in both games. Excuse me. I presume Travion Wisner is not going to play this week as well. He shouldn't. Not in this type of game. Just let the backups play. But yeah, you need to get Arch as comfy as possible before really getting into SEC stretch. Because if he's still in that struggling mindset or not having as much confidence as he's used to having before SEC play, I don't know how good Texas will be. There's a few games in there that they play. Their SEC schedule is not crazy tough, but it's not crazy. I mean, it's probably in the middle of strength of schedules in the SEC. There's a few games in there that are losable. Most of their games should be wins, obviously, but there are a few games in there that are very losable, especially if they keep playing like they have the past 2 weeks. So I think they just need to clean that up and let him get those free access throws and build confidence back into him before they get into SEC stretch. At 5 p.m. Central Time, we have Alcorn State at Mississippi State. This one's a FCS game. Mississippi State should handle business. It's just another game for Shapen to sharpen up his accuracy. I mean, he's done it the first 2 games. He's gotten better each game. So he just needs to continue to build on that throughout this season. And it's just a good game for them to have some young guys play because they're going to have some depth pieces, especially when you get into SEC play. You got to have some depth pieces. So it's just a good game for those depth pieces to play a lot more and get accustomed to playing football before they hit SEC games. And the last kind of cupcake game is Eastern Michigan at Kentucky, 6:30 p.m. I haven't read anything on Calzada. I presume he is playing on Saturday. And if he is, I think they need to let this offense be a free, easy going game. Start off just little slants, screens, getting comfortable, those types of things. Build it up. I think they do need to have him at some point throw some type of intermediates and deep balls quite a bit just to get him used to it because it hasn't looked great the first couple games this season for him, making throws beyond 10 yards. So I think that's a big thing for Kentucky. And then the backs, just get Dowdle and get McGowan some reps, get him some good reps, eight carries apiece, and then get them out because those are your dogs that are going to hunt for you this year at Kentucky are those 2 backs. And if you're going to win, if you're going to make a bowl game this year, it's going to be on the backs of those 2 running backs. And with that being said, you don't need them getting hurt against Eastern Michigan. So get them 8 carries apiece, get them some good reps of gameplay before you get into SEC play, and then get them out of there. Is essentially what I would say on that one. Now continuing on to big games in the SEC. I considered this one a big game just because it's Power 4 versus Power 4. It should not be a close game, essentially. If you look at the rosters and the gameplay, this game should not be close. But Wisconsin at Alabama at 11 a.m. And let's see if Wisconsin can get pressure on Bama. Let's see if Ty Simpson can make these throws outside of the pocket. If he does, if he takes that step this week and looks a lot better in that area of his game, then Bama may have something there. But that's one thing. You can't just let him sit in the pocket and throw. It's just not going to happen every game. If he's sitting in the pocket, he's going to be able to read defense, and he can sling the ball. And he's a very good arm talent. But the one thing for me was him outside of the pocket, spiking it, sailing it, those types of things. Can he clean that up? We'll see from week 1 to week 3 if it's cleaned up. Week 2, he didn't have to do much of that. So if I'm Wisconsin, I'm trying to get pressure on the quarterback. And I think if they can and he hasn't cleaned it up, this game could be close because those errant throws. So if I'm Wisconsin, I'm heavy on trying to get pressure on the quarterback this week, just until he shows me that he's able to make those throws outside of the pocket on the run. Jam Miller still questionable for this weekend. I think he's a game time decision. I think if he plays, it won't be a ton. They're really missing Jam Miller right now, though. He's a very good running back in the SEC. So if he plays, I presume him to be kind of the spell the back type guy this weekend, just because he hasn't played yet, just to get him some reps in gameplay before they give him on a full game. Lastly, Ryan Williams expected to play in this game, and if he is playing, I would like to see him get quite a few targets early to get him involved in the game. You know, they're going to have him in SEC play. Yes, Jeremy Bernard is a very underrated, very, very good receiver, but he is still not Ryan Williams. So I would like to see him get involved often and early in this game and have some good reps. And then if they get up a couple scores, you know, let him sit and just let him rest from having the concussion this past week. So that's Wisconsin at Alabama at 11 a.m. Your next games are night games Florida at LSU, 6:30 p.m. Got quite a bit on this one. Florida, if I'm Florida going into this game, after watching LSU last week, I'm going to feed Jaden Ball 25 times this game. I'm turning around and handing him the ball 25 times in this football game. He, to me, is the best running back in the SEC. I don't understand what happened last week from going drive 1, 6 carries for 57, 54 yards, whatever it was, to then only having 13 carries the whole game. That makes absolute zero sense to me if I'm a Florida Gator fan. Even not being a Florida Gator fan, that makes zero sense to me to feed Jacoby Jackson or to feed all these other guys when he is doing that on the first drive. If they can't stop him, why are you going away from it? It's just kind of, it's ridiculous to me, to be honest. But I'm feeding Jaden Ball 20 plus times in this football game, and that's just how I'm going to play this game. And then that will allow Lagway to have easy passes once Ball, breaks a couple. Then they'll play down, and then Lagway can hit those easy balls, get comfortable again. Because he's a very good passer and a very good quarterback. It's just he hasn't practiced a ton, so he needs to find those easy ones to start, build the confidence, and then bust some balls deep and take some deep shots and pause. But that's just I don't understand what's so difficult about that type of game plan for this team, especially with Lagway not practicing a ton and you having this guy like Jaden Ball. Feed the beast, just let him run. And then that opens up everything else for this offense. Second thing is Death Valley will be rocking on Saturday night. I don't care who plays in Death Valley at 6 p.m. If it's a night game at LSU, that place is going to be rocking. Cajuns will be drinking from 9 a.m. until game time and through the game. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be a raucous crowd, So that's another reason why I say let Ball go and then allow Lagway to find those comfortable, easy access throws to start the game. And then once he's, comfortable, settled down, everything, adrenaline settled down, then you start taking some shots if possible, which I do think you can on this defense. LSU's defense has drastically improved over the past couple of years, but they are very downhill defense, so I think there's chances for those opportunities to be taken over the top. Sorry, I got to get my caffeine fix this morning. If they somehow have Lagway play like the last 2 weeks, this game will be a blowout in my mind. But I think that starts from not having him do everything and not getting stuck behind the chains on first and second down and being in 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 12s on every drive, That's where I think Jaden Ball needs to come in. And I truly believe if Jaden Ball is fed 20-plus times in this football game, that this will be a fourth-quarter ball game. It's just how I feel about it, because he's going to be the engine to this whole team this year in my mind. The last piece of this is Tyreek Sapp and that defensive line of Florida needs to wreak havoc on that LSU O-line and get to Nussmeier. We saw Louisiana Tech do it last week. I think they had 3, maybe 4 sacks and had 8 or 9 TFLs, tackle for losses, in that football game last week. And that's without having an offense like Florida has, which has not been great, but they do have a lot of playmakers on that offense that can change games. So I do think if this defense can do that to that O-line, I think we could be in for a good ball game. And we've seen it before where Billy Napier has lost a game like not essentially South Florida, but lost a game he should win, and then come back and play what's, as of right now, the top team in the SEC, and just go toe-to-toe and end up winning the game. So I think that's a key for this game too, is allowing that defense to get pressure. I don't think that O-line can handle the Florida defensive line, especially what I saw last week. That was my big question mark for LSU, was their offensive line consistency. They were incredible against Clemson, and Clemson has one of the top defensive lines in the country. Absolutely incredible. And then Louisiana Tech comes to town and it's 4 sacks, 10 tackles for losses. It's like, what offensive line are you going to get from LSU? I'm not sure. If it's the one from last week, Florida's in good shape on getting to the quarterback. Maybe not to win, but they will make it a ball game. For LSU, just coming right off of that, offensive line has to protect Garrett Nussmeier on Saturday. They have to, because if not, Tyreek Sapp will be in his face all game long. I do think Caden Durham needs a good game in the rushing attack for LSU to open up some of that other stuff, so they can't, play light boxes against LSU and worry about the playmakers in Barian Brown and Aaron Anderson. So I think that's one of the keys as well, is getting the running game going. You don't necessarily have to worry about Nuss. He'll take off sometimes, not a ton, but the rushing attack, I think, needs to get going for LSU to open up the outside playmakers. And that leads into my last point, is let playmakers outside make plays in Aaron Anderson and Barian Brown. I'm wondering where Nick Anderson is. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some research on that. I meant to do that before this, but I forgot. But yeah, the 2 Andersons and Barian Brown, very good receivers. So they need to let those guys make plays and continue to get those guys the ball in space. And defensive consistency for Blake Baker. Can he do it for 3 weeks in a row? I don't know. This Florida offense is currently in shambles from playmaking from play calling, and Lagway not playing well so far, and just, I think, going the wrong way currently. The end of the year they were trending this way. I think they kind of tipped back over the mountain and started coming back down right now. Will they take another leap and go back up to the summit? I don't know. We'll see. So defensive consistency for Blake Baker, because this year has been the first time since Blake Baker's been there that this defense has had a solid 2 weeks in a row. We haven't seen it. So we'll see if they can do it for 3. Next one, 6:45 p.m., Vandy at South Carolina. I think this one's going to be a good game. I do. But I could also see it's gonna go. I believe this game to go one of two ways. Um, Vandy close in a fourth quarter game because of Pavia's playmaking abilities, or South Carolina will cover the spread and win the ball game easily. I think that's the only two ways this game goes. I think if it's close in the fourth quarter, Pavia is the best playmaker on the field, and I think he handles that business and wins the football game. But I also think South Carolina is just a better team, and I think they could easily win this football game. I have my picks on the next page. I can't remember exactly what I put. I may contradict myself and say complete opposite of what I just said. But for Vandy, can Diego Pavia make enough plays against this South Carolina defense and this defensive line of South Carolina, who is very stout? Because Dylan Stewart's going to be trying to take his head off all game. I think Vandy needs to. He wasn't very involved last week. I think Eli Stowers has to get going early in this football game for Vandy. I think it's Pavia's favorite target. His roommate. They have like this bond from transferring from the same school. You know, those types of things, and they're very, very good together. And I think he has to get going early for Vandy to take an early lead in this game, essentially is what they would want to do to quiet that crowd, because it's going to be rocking in Williams-Brice. And that's the next thing. Don't let environment cause petty mistakes. And what I mean by that is don't let this environment cause you on a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, a false start to turn into a 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. Those types of things. If Sellers, sorry about that, I lost my train of thought though. Don't let this environment cause petty mistakes. And I think that's a big key in this game for Vandy, is you can't have those just penalties in key situations, or drops in key situations, or get too antsy if you're Pavia and try and do way too much in those key situations. So I think that's a big key for this game. The last couple things for Vandy is the defense for Vandy. Can they play like they did last week? I mean, that second half they put together against Virginia Tech was just incredible. So can they put that together for 4 quarters? If they put that together for 4 quarters, Vandy's going to win this football game. If they put it together for a half, it's going to be a fourth quarter football game. And my last key for Vandy, and probably the biggest key that I have in this football game, is do not, whatever you do, I don't care where you're at on the football field, do not punt the football to Vakari Swain. That's it. It's the only big thing I have for them right here is do not punt to Vakari Swain. The guy has 3 punt return touchdowns in 2 games. Just kick it away from him. Coffin corner punt it. If you're on the 40, just boot it as far as you can out of the end zone. I don't care. Don't punt it to him. Because as of right now, he has not shown me anything but being the best punt returner in the country. So keep it away from him. If he does it again on a Saturday, I don't know what to tell you. But 3 in 2 games is kind of a wild statistic to me. For South Carolina, I do think LaNorris Sellers needs a big game. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good. He's been kind of middle of the road so far this year, but he hasn't had to do anything crazy to win yet. I do think he will be having to in this game. I think whichever quarterback makes the more plays could be the real key factor of this game. So Sellers or Pavia, whichever one makes that extra play or that one less mistake or that type of thing. I think that's who wins the football game. And for South Carolina, like I just harped on for Vandy, you can't rely on Bakari Swain to return a touchdown every single game. Uh, you just can't. Um, for your, 5 touchdowns that you've scored this year, South Carolina, 3 of them are from Bakari Swain on punt returns. That's insane. Like, I I thought this offense was supposed to be so crazy good this year. Lenora Sellers, Nick Harbor, all this stuff. Like, you haven't showed me anything yet. It's just where I'm at with it. If Bakari Swain has 60% of your touchdowns, the offense has got to get going at some point in time. And if you don't get going in this game, Vandy's going to beat you. We've learned Vandy has, to me, and always will be the bottom of the barrel of the SEC in football, at least. There's 2 teams for me that are there every year, just from me being a Tennessee fan, and that's Vandy and Kentucky. People all talk, oh, Vandy, yeah, Kentucky. No, they're not going to beat Tennessee. It's just how I feel about it. But Vandy has shown after this past year that they can beat anybody. And that's just one of those things that how they are now is, Diego Pavia had this interview, and a lot of the stuff he said was outrageous, just to be honest with you, just outlandish stuff that's just stupid. But it's like Vandy being a national powerhouse. No, not going to happen. But that relates to me in a way that we can see as a fan, that we can see Vandy now as a team that can actually beat a top 10 team in the country. And that's where they're at now. I don't think they're a national powerhouse. I don't ever think they'll be a team that's beating Tennessee every single year. And those are some of the things that he said, and talking about going to Bryant-Denny this year and beating Alabama. But those are that's not so far-fetched as to them beating Alabama and Bryant-Denny now. And though that's the type of thing that I can agree with him on, is that Vandy is now a team that when they come to town, or you're going to Nashville, that you can't just waltz in there and 41-3 trounce them anymore. That's the kind of things that I relate from what he was talking about to on that interview. So this is a game that if you don't bring out your A game on offense for South Carolina, Pavia's going to control the game and they're going to win. And that's one thing that South Carolina can't afford this year, especially with their schedule. They have a tough schedule. If they lose this one, there's no playoff hopes for them. They have to win the games at home that they're supposed to win. And that's just, you have to have your offense show up for this one, or it's going to be a sad day at South Carolina. I think the defensive line for South Carolina is so good. Dylan Stewart and company, I think they can get to Pavia. They can force him into some mistakes. Because he does get a little wild sometimes. It works every now and then. But it's one of those things that if it doesn't work, it's going to be a turnover, and it's going to be a plus for South Carolina. So I do think the defensive line needs to be havoc wreaking on Saturday morning or Saturday night, tomorrow night. Excuse me. And that's what I have for that game. Continuing on, we have one big SEC versus independent matchup, and then we have we have one more SEC game too, sorry. And then A&M and Notre Dame, and then Clemson, Georgia Tech, and South Florida, Miami, before we get to how many game picks do I have? Run through the full SEC. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cupcakes that I'll pick, which don't really mean much. Those should sweep. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 kind of big games. 5 SEC, and then 2 not SEC. and upset of the week as well. So there's not really a ton of big games this week outside of the game that I did a whole. The biggest game of the week's Georgia at Tennessee, obviously, but I did a whole episode on that, about 40 minutes long. I didn't want to include that in here because I had a lot to talk about for that one. So if you go back one day or one video, that whole episode is there. It's about 40 minutes long, and it's all things Tennessee and Georgia for this weekend that you'll need to know. So go back, watch that one as well, and my game pick for that one is on that video at the very end, if you want to hear that. So let's get into a couple more SEC and the best of the rest. We got Arkansas at Ole Miss at 6 p.m. I think Arkansas needs to just let Taylor Green play free and easy. I mean, it's worked for him 2 weeks through the season. He looks like a Heisman dark horse candidate. Arkansas looks like a top 25 team so far. Granted, they haven't played anybody crazy good. I think this will be a good test for them and to really see where they're at on that spectrum. I think Washington Jr. and Braylon Russell, if those guys get going downhill, as well as Taylor Green's legs, I think Ole Miss could be in for a long day, if I'm being honest with you, because then that opens up where he can, the passing attack, and him to scramble out 10 yards to the right and sling it 50 yards down the field to Omega Blake. It's just how Taylor Green plays, and that's okay. If it works for him and it works for Arkansas, then that's okay. But I think this is a game where they could possibly squeak one out with the playmaker of Taylor Green. Omega Blake early and often in this game and get the rushing attack going. I think the biggest key for this game for me is Arkansas's defense. Can they get to Austin Simmons and not if – it's not a if for me through the first 2 weeks of the seasons. It's a when and how many turnovers is Arkansas going to get off of Austin Simmons, because through the first 2 weeks of the seasons he's got 4 interceptions, and one of those games being against a terrible team. Austin Simmons can sling the rock around, don't get me wrong. He can make any throw in the game, but I guess it's reading the defense. I don't think he reads defenses well yet, and that's just going to come with more comfort playing college football. He hadn't played a ton of college football. I think he played a couple drives last year. He had one drive against I can't remember who they were playing where he looked incredible. It was a really good team, and so it's like if he throws 2 interceptions this game, Arkansas wins this game 2 scores. I'll say that. If he throws 2 interceptions again in this game, Ole Miss has no chance of winning this football game with how Taylor Green is playing right now. It's just how I think about it. It's how I feel about it. So I think the defense for Arkansas needs to get pressure on Simmons and force him to make turnovers that we've seen all year so far to date. Those are a couple of things there. I'm excited to watch Taylor Green in this one, to be honest with you. I think he's really good. As long as he has the pressure as long as he's got the protection and stuff and able to do what he wants to do and just play free and easy and that type of game, he's so fun to watch. I think you guys need to tune into that one and watch Taylor Green for Arkansas if you haven't seen him play yet. For Ole Miss, I think it's one big thing for me, and that's Austin Simmons has to clean up his game. As long as he's healthy, I don't know if he's playing or not. I haven't seen anything on it. I usually see it. I usually see all the injury reports. I didn't see anything on his yet, and that might just be when I'm recording this. But yeah, he has to clean up his game if he's playing. If he's out, Arkansas definitely wins this football game, I think. I just think that's the thing, because Simmons can make the throws to win the football game, but he can also make the throws to lose in the football game, essentially, if that makes sense. The second thing for Ole Miss is, can Kawan Lacey keep it up this week? That dude has been running wild through 2 weeks of the season. He has just been a dog for them. Logan Diggs, I think he only had a couple carries last week, which surprised me, but maybe because Lacey had a hot hand. I'd like to see a little bit more of him to keep Lacey fresh this week. Offensive line has to protect Simmons to give him time to actually be able to make some throws this week. I think that's a key for them too, is protecting Austin Simmons enough to where he's not having to scramble out of the pocket and make throws, or throwing with pressure in his face to make errant throws. I think that's a key too. And for the defense of Ole Miss, TJ Daugherty, I think, is the guy on that defense that needs to be QB spy all game for Ole Miss. Because if you don't have eyes on Taylor Green, that's a 50-yard run. If you don't have somebody eyeing him, there goes 25 yards. You know, if you have a QB spy on him and he gets out of the pocket and you're able to close that gap and able to stop him for 3 or 4 yards, that's a plus. That's a plus. You know, you're keeping him from those long yardage gains. Or that also entails him, if he sees that guy coming, he's worried about this guy coming to sack him or catch him, and he's not able to scan the field and throw that ball 50 yards across the field to Omega Blake wide open, standing there waiting on the football. So I think you got to QB contain him this week, and I think this is going to be a really good game. Now on to the last one. I think it's a big one. Number 16, Texas A&M at number 8, Notre Dame, who is 0-1 to start this season at 6:30 p.m. I have no idea how to pick this game, if I'm being honest with you. I have my picks already. I have picked it, but I'm so unsure on how to pick this game. A&M, they need Marcel Reed to have just another consistent game. Yeah, he's probably gonna do 22 or 34. That's his consistent. That's just how it is. But if he can get to 25 or 34, 24 or 34, those 2-3 extra passes that he's completing could be a key in this game. I think the biggest key in this game is his legs, though. I think Marcel Reed's legs are a key for this A&M offense, and the rest of the rushing attack as well. Le'Veon Moss looked great last week. That's what I wanted to see, so props to you on that. But I think Marcel Reed's legs are the biggest part of this game, because if they're getting pressure and he's able to bail out and get a first down or more, those types of things, I think that bodes well for A&M in this game. You got 2 stud receivers, Mario Craver and KC Concepcion. Just let those guys make plays. Get the ball in their hands and let them make plays is what I'd like to see too. Don't force it to them. Get them just some easy playmaking plays, and especially KC, let him get out on the edge and just in space and just make people miss. Craver's kind of a bigger body, but yeah, I think that's A&M for this week. And then Notre Dame, is CJ Carr the guy? You can't. This in week 1 for Notre Dame, they dink, they dunk, they slants, curls, everything under 10 yards or less, screen passes, those types of things. That's all they threw at in that first game. You can't do that and win football games against a top 25 team, because what's that? All that is going to do is bring everybody down, and then what? You're not going to take the shot over the top. I mean, you gotta. I think if a guy's playing quarterback for you as a team like Notre Dame, you got to have enough trust in him to make those throws. I don't care if he's a freshman or not. I mean, if you don't trust him enough to make throws down the field in a big game, why is he playing quarterback for you? Is essentially my question for that, because he won the job, obviously, so he's done the things he's needed to do to win the quarterback job. But if you're not going to push it downfield a couple times and lighten up that defense to where Jeremiah Love can get through, and they don't have 8 guys in a box, and they don't box up everything right there within the hash marks. What are you even doing? So I do think if they're dinking and dunking again, and he's doing that, Kenny Minchey just needs to play for Notre Dame, because Kenny Minchey's really good, and I don't think you could sit there and let CJ Carr dink and dunk this whole game. It's not a winnable recipe for games like this. It's just not, because then that just causes things for like Jeremiah Love, to where he's going through heavy boxes. If he's trying to get through the whole defense in 10 yards, is going to be another slow game for Jeremiah Love. And that's the key to everything they want to do is Jeremiah Love. As it should be. He's the best running back in the country. I think getting him going early and often and allowing to start the game, I understand CJ Carr getting free access, easy access throws, but that can't be your whole game plan. And that's just how I think about it. And if he does struggle early, I think Kenny Minchey needs to come in if you're going to have a chance in this football game, because we can't see a repeat of week 1 for Notre Dame. And if Notre Dame does happen to lose this game, there's not another game on their schedule that can get them in the playoffs unless somehow USC breaks in the top, I'm going to say top 15. I don't even think if they're top 25. They're ranked 23rd and Notre Dame goes 10-2. I don't know that Notre Dame gets in. Because there's nobody else on that schedule that's worth a damn. So I do think if I had to choose a team in this game that this game has a bigger implication for the rest of the season, it's Notre Dame. Because this can be a marquee win. They don't have another game on their schedule that can be a marquee win. A&M has to go through an SEC schedule, which has 3 or 4, those types of things. And plus, it's just year 2 of Elko. And if they have a repeat of last year, I think that he's successful through two years. It's just how I feel about it. But yeah, Notre Dame has nobody left on their schedule after this week that I can honestly say that's a good win for a playoff team outside of USC, maybe, if they happen to break through the top 25. Other than that, they don't play anybody. So that's just how it is. I think Notre Dame has to win this football game, to be honest with you. Moving on, at 11 a.m. we have a big one, Clemson at Georgia Tech. I don't know what's going on with this Clemson Tigers team. I was really high on them to begin the year. If they struggle again this week, I'm off of them. I'm done. I'm off of them. That's just how I feel about it. I mean, that'd be 3 weeks in a row where they have drastically struggled. If they struggle this week, they could struggle and win, and I'm still off of them. If they struggle 3 weeks in a row in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I'm off of them. Cade Klubnik has not been bad this year. They have no rushing attack so far. They have a 5-star freshman who I don't know why isn't getting the bulk of the carries. Instead, they're giving it to a receiver transformed to running back who's 6'4", 230. He should be your third down back and your passing down back and your short yardage back. Gideon Davidson should be getting the ball 15 times a game, unless he's just not showing you something in practice. But Gideon Davidson is a stud to me, and I feel like, and yes, I'm not the coaches and I'm not there every day at practice, so I don't know how he's performing in practice. But to me, on the outside looking in, that's the guy that should be your every down back, outside of those that I just listed. And I think that's what's missing from them. Antonio Williams being out hurts, but they still have 2 really good receivers other than Antonio Williams. They have 3 guys that are going to go in the first 4 rounds of the draft at receiver. And then their defense has played okay. They sucked last week in the first half. giving up 16 points to Troy. Second half, they shut it down. And I think that needs to continue. Their front seven is insanely good. They have 3 first-round draft picks in the front seven and a corner. So I think those guys I don't know if they were like overhyped or what, but I think they have to take a big step forward this week. I think they do. I still have a little faith in that team as of now. But if they, like I said, if they struggle this week at all, I'm off of them. And the biggest question mark for Georgia Tech is, can Haynes King make enough plays to keep them in this football game? And we've seen it before. We saw it against Georgia last year. We saw it a few times last year from Haynes King. He's not the best thrower in the world, but he is just a playmaker and who works hard and does everything the right way. So can he make those plays in this game to keep Georgia Tech in the football game? I don't know. We will see. He has been a little banged up, but we'll see. I mean, we've seen him do it before, so we'll see if he can do it again. And the last game we're going to talk about right here is South Florida at Miami at 3:30. I don't know. I mean, South Florida, yes, I love South Florida. I'm big Golesh fan, obviously, coming from Tennessee, and I really loved what they did last week. I don't know if they can do that to this Miami team because Miami's offensive line is so good. Florida's offensive line struggled last week against USF, and they have a really good offensive line too. I mean, they have an all-SEC tackle, all-American center, and then Kearney, who's playing right guard, who's usually, I think he's a center, but he's playing right guard, is really, really good too. He's so good they had to find a spot on the line for him to play because Slaughter came back to play center this year instead of going last year when he would have been a first-round draft pick probably. So they have a really good line. So I'm not saying anything that USF can't do it because they can. But Francis Muoga is probably one of the top tackles in the country. So can those guys get pressure on Carson Beck? If they can, I will tell you this right now because I've seen it the last couple of years. If you could get pressure on Carson Beck, he will make a mistake. If he could stand in there and throw it, you're done. You're cooked. He's gonna dice you up if he can stand in there and sling the rock around. That's just how it is. But if you can pressure him, he will make a mistake, and you have to capitalize on those mistakes if you're South Florida. And the next thing for them is for offensively for South Florida, can Byron Brown make enough plays and control the game again? If he can do it for 3 weeks in a row, who's to say South Florida's not going to be a top 10 team in the country after this win? They'll have the 3 best wins of anyone in the country. 3 ranked wins to start the season. I don't think it happens. I would love to see it happen. I don't think they go 3-0 to start the season though. It's just. I mean, I think you smack Boise State essentially. And they're like, oh, they don't have Ashton Jeanty. I even said it. So they're not as good this year, which is very true. They aren't. And then they go into Gainesville and beat Florida in the swamp. And it's like, oh, this team's pretty good. They're actually a really good non-Power 4 team. And it kind of puts you on notice of, like, this isn't a walk-in Hard Rock and cupcake win that they probably thought it was going to be when they scheduled it. It's not that anymore because Byron Brown is experienced. He's a veteran. He knows how to make plays. He can sling the rock. It's not what they want to do, but he can sling it. We've seen it before, and he knows how to control a game. If he can do that again and that defensive line can get pressure, this game will be a fourth quarter football game. If not, and Carson Beck has all the time in the world this week, he's going to dice you up and probably blow you out. Just what I think about it. Because that running game for Miami is pretty solid right now too. But I'm telling you, those linebackers that South Florida have they could start on a lot of Power 4 football teams. I would take 2 of them right now. Just me on Tennessee. I mean, not to start, but I would take them on that team right now to play some. Mac Harris and Jalen Schuler. Those 2 guys are studs. So we'll see what they can do against this Miami offense at 3:30 tomorrow. All right, we're just now hit 50 minutes, so it's good on timing. We'll get into game picks and get this over with before an hour hits, I think. Let's run through these cupcakes real fast. Oklahoma at Temple. Oklahoma favored by 21.5. I have Oklahoma covering this week, 44-20. I think John Mateer just has a good day, and then the backups come in and that type of thing. I think they play a lot of dudes on defense, so they give up a couple points, you know. And that happens. That happens sometimes, you know, when you get a lot of backups in, depth pieces in against starters from a team that's not that great, and their offense still has their first strings in. You know, that happens. So I do think 44-20 OU. South Alabama at Auburn. Auburn favored by 24.5. I actually have South Alabama covering, but Auburn winning 38-17. I think they cover, and yeah, by 21 is what I have on that one. Louisiana at Mizzou. Mizzou's favored by 27.5. I have Mizzou covering 45-13. I do not think Louisiana is that good, so I do think Mizzou will cover, especially with those guys in the backfield. If they break one, it's gone. You know. Next game, UTEP at Texas. Texas minus 40.5. That's a heavy number to cover, so I have UTEP covering 45-10. Texas wins. That's just such a heavy number to cover, beating somebody by 40. I don't care who you are, unless you're Northwestern State playing Minnesota like 88-0 or whatever it was. It's insane. But yeah, I just think 40 is a tough number to cover. If it's ever 40 plus, I'm gonna take the underdog to cover. That's just, and if they don't, then they don't. But that's just how it is. I mean, that's just a hard number to cover. Last kind of cupcake game, Eastern Michigan at Kentucky. Cats favored by 24.5. I have Kentucky covering 31-6 Cats tomorrow. I think they handle business in that one. I don't think Eastern Michigan's that good. I think the rushing attack for Kentucky will handle this game. That's why I only have them scoring 30, because I think they're going to run the ball a lot, which they should, because Calzada's not great in the passing game. Now let's get to the big games. Wisconsin at Alabama. Bama is currently favored. All these are off of FanDuel, by the way, just so you know. And I got these when I did my notes on Thursday afternoon. So they may have shifted a point, a half a point, you know, one way or the other, just so you know. But Wisconsin at Alabama. Bama's favored 21.5. I have Wisconsin covering and Bama winning 34-17. And I think Ty Simpson has a pretty good game, and the defense has a good game for the Tide. So I have that one 34-17 Crimson Tide. Florida at LSU. I think they do change up a little bit and go heavy on Jaden Ball. LSU's favored 7.5. I have Florida covering but losing 24-20 Tigers. Next one, Vandy at South Carolina. South Carolina's favored by 5.5. And I am not going to contradict myself. I couldn't remember my pick, but my pick is a fourth quarter football game. And what did I say was going to happen if it was a fourth quarter football game? That is correct. Vandy covers, upset South Carolina 23-20. And no, that is not my upset of the week. But I do have Vandy winning that football game with how the current state of South Carolina's offense is. You can't rely on punt returns for touchdowns to win you a football game. All you gotta do is just not kick to him. So I think Vandy stays away from him, and South Carolina's offense continues to do what they're doing. Vandy wins the football game. Diego Pavia makes one more play than Lenore Sellers tomorrow night. Clemson at Georgia Tech. Clemson is favored by 3.5. I think Clemson finally shows up a little bit more. I think they cover 27-20 Clemson. South Florida at Miami. 17.5 is heavy, especially after last week. It was 17.5 for South Florida. I took South Florida to cover. I took Florida to win. I'm doing the same this week. South Florida to cover. Miami wins 31-20 Hurricanes. As I think they will cover. I think South Florida will score enough points to cover that, but I don't think they win this one, unfortunately. I do hope they do. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope they cover and win, but I do think that Miami kind of put them on notice and knows that this is not just one of those games that they can waltz in there and just win, doing whatever they want to do. So 31-20 Miami. We got one left and upset of the week. Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is favored by 6.5 at home. I think Notre Dame shows up in this game. I do. And I'm not that big on A&M this year. I like Marcel Reed a lot. I like those receivers a lot, but I'm not so big on them this year. They're a top 25 team, sure, but I don't think they're a fringe playoff team. They're right. They're very. A&M is very similar to Michigan to me right now, but Marcel Reed is currently better than Bryce Underwood, just because he's played more ball. But yeah, so I have Notre Dame covering 6.5, 34-24 Irish in this football game. Helps, especially being at home. I think Jeremiah Love has a big game, and I think they handle business against the Aggies. All right, upset of the week. As the Arkansas Razorbacks travel to Oxford to play the Ole Miss Rebels, I have Ole Miss is favored by 7.5 at home. I have Arkansas covering and Arkansas winning on the road. Much like last week, Baylor covering and Baylor winning on the road. I have the same this week. I have Arkansas winning and on the road. Austin Simmons makes a couple mistakes per we've seen the first 2 weeks. I think that continues this week, at least one, and I think it's a big one in a big-time moment, and that insinuates that I also think Taylor Green runs crazy in this football game and has a big day for the Hogs. So I have Hogs 31, Rebs 27. Arkansas is my upset of the week pick, and I will turn back here real fast and tell you that way if you don't feel like going back and watching the Tennessee and Georgia episode, I am biased obviously, but I did have Tennessee actually beating Georgia this week 30-27 and breaking that streak. Like I said yesterday in my episode, I think it's Josh Heupel's best chance in totality of a roster to beat Kirby Smart and win that one, especially at home against a young quarterback who's never played in a road game. So I did have that. So there's that one. But yes, my upset of the week is Arkansas taking down Ole Miss tomorrow. And that is my picks for the week. And that is the rundown for your Saturday of college football. And we just hit 59 minutes, so I'm good on time. And I just want to say, if you enjoyed this, please like, please subscribe, please share it. I would really like to do these live and then post them after. Would be phenomenal if you guys could help me out with that. And the best way to do that is to subscribe. As I keep growing into this and doing this, it's just for fun, but I think it's some good information as well. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Have a safe weekend. Hope you win some money. Let's win some money together. And thank you to all your ball knowers. We'll see you Monday.